Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are live. Thank you all very much for being here today. Happy Monday morning. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on YouTube as well as on Rumble, as well as on Twitch at Matt Morris TV. I'm making sure we are in fact live. I believe we might be having some technical difficulties. No, I believe we are live every single place we need to be live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going live maybe 15 minutes early today because at 3 p.m. Eastern time today, 15 minutes from now, the Justice Department as well as the FBI are going to be holding a massive bombshell press conference regarding the recent assassination attempt against President Trump. And they are expected to be releasing some very curious information. So we're going to be here for that. Today was going to be a little bit of an extended broadcast, perhaps 2 or 2.5 hours, because beyond this FBI DOJ press conference, we're going to be having a regular show. We have a lot to talk about today. We have some massive updates coming out of Mamdani's New York City today. Guess what? Mamdani's plan to create his communist utopia is already backfiring. It is blowing up in his communist face in some pretty serious ways. Big surprise. The Democrats today have also suffered a series of massive legal blows, legal losses today, pertaining really to the upcoming midterms. And midterms haven't even started yet, but today might end up going down in history as the day the Democrats lost midterms. I kid you not. Serious legal losses for the Democrats this morning. And also, we got some massive news pertaining to NATO. NATO is pretty much on the cusp of imploding this morning. Our European allies are now bickering amongst themselves, frankly, ripping each other apart. And now China is also literally bullying and threatening Europe publicly, mind you. And the Europeans, they can't really do anything about it. Not a good situation for Europe. So today, and of course, we also have some little micro side stories along the way. Today is going to be really, boy howdy, one hell of a broadcast. I think we're good. I don't think we have any tech difficulties today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hop right into this because, like I said, here in about 12 minutes now, there's going to be a joint FBI DOJ press conference talking about this attempted assassination against President Trump that took place 2 nights ago. We're going to get all the info. We have the confirmation. The Justice Department is going to be holding a briefing at 3 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon on the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter. Kash Patel, Todd Blanche, and Jeanine Pirro, who's a U.S. attorney, are going to be briefing the press everything that they know. Now, we know for the last day and a half or 2 days, they have been scouring through this guy's history. What did he do? Where did he come from? Is he working alone? Was he part of a group? Is anybody funding him? How did he get radicalized? Why did he do it? And so today we're going to be getting all of the answers. Now, we got this news about a half hour ago. Breaking news. This would-be assassin has now been charged with 3 counts, including attempting to assassinate the president of the United States of America. 3 charges, one of which is attempting to assassinate the president of the United States of America. Now, out of all the charges someone could possibly rack up, that's like probably the biggest one. And so, I don't know, do you think the death sentence is going to be on the table? I'm sure we're going to be hearing about that today as well. Just in a couple moments here.
From Jake Gibson, Cole Allen is facing 3 counts. Count 1, attempt to assassinate the president of the United States, up to life in prison. I'm just reading this on my phone in real time. Transporting a firearm across state lines, 10 years and $250,000 fine. And the 3rd count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, a mandatory minimum of 10 years. So the first is attempt to assassinate the president of the United States, up to life in prison. Then the second 2, transporting a firearm across state lines. And number 3, and the final, discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence.
Up to life in prison for that first biggest charge, attempting to assassinate the president. Up to life in prison. Is there not something else we could do? Is the death sentence here not on the table? If not for this, then what? What are we saving the death sentence for? If not this, then what? This should be firing squad. This should be public hanging, right? This guy tried to kill the president. He said in his own manifesto that he was willing to kill anybody he needed to kill to get to the president. So we're talking civilian, innocent, random people that are happen to be in the way, wrong place, wrong time. What's more, he also said that he wanted to try to kill various other members of Trump's cabinet, not Kash Patel, though. I don't know why he wasn't. But anyway, he said, everybody else other than Kash Patel, I'm going to take them out also, is what he said. So is this not a death sentence type of situation? I think it is. I think it should be. The Democrats this morning, one named Democrat House Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, curious name, is now blaming President Trump for all of the assassination attempts against his life because President Trump has low approval ratings, allegedly. We got to hear this one.
There's tremendous, as you can understand, concern given the threat levels that are going up in part because of the president and now 3 assassination attempts on him, his very low approval ratings, which unfortunately fuel a lot of disaffection. There's
President Trump's low approval ratings fuel a lot of disaffection, which then fuels the assassination attempts against him. This is a sitting Democrat congressional representative, by the way, not blaming the assassins, not blaming these violent radicals, no, blaming Trump for disaffecting people, at which point they feel compelled to try to kill the president. Absolutely insane. I mean, it's curious because it's this type of rhetoric that actually really is causing all of this. Over in Lebanon, I saw this. Look at this. In the predominantly Christian town of Zali in East Lebanon, locals hung up a poster with President Trump's image on it, and the caption says, "Thank God you're safe, big guy." How funny is this? We've got Christians over in Lebanon, in the Middle East, God bless them, and they show more love and respect for not just the president, but for human life in general, for the president in this case, than some of our own elected representatives over here in the United States of America. How sad is that? Carolyn Levitt spoke about some of this rhetoric earlier this morning. She had a press conference.
It's not just the media, it is the entire Democrat Party has made their pitch to voters across the country that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to democracy, that he is a fascist, and that they compare him to Hitler. I mean, these are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time." Governor Josh Shapiro said heads need to roll within the administration. Senator Alex Padilla said people are, quote, dying because of fear and terror caused by the Trump administration. Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Trump is making the country look like a, quote, fascist state. Senator Adam Schiff saying President Trump using a dictator playbook. Senator Ed Markey calling President Trump a dictator, saying that this administration's actions are authoritarianism on steroids. Governor J.B. Pritzker, never before in my life have I called for mass protest disruptions. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. You have Rep. Presley saying, "We'll see you in the streets." Rep. Monica McIver, a Democrat representative on Capitol Hill, "We will not take this shit from Donald Trump. He thinks he's a dictator. We are at war." These are Democrat elected officials calling for war against the President of the United States and his supporters. I could go on, but again, when you have people in positions of power that are saying things like this every single day for years, you are inspiring violence by people who are already mentally ill. And that's what we've seen against this president for far too long.
We've said this here on this show a million times. I'm so happy Carolyn Levitt, God bless her. I think she's 39 weeks pregnant. Like, she could go into labor any minute now. And she still held a press conference this morning because, regrettably, some violent, psychotic, far-left extremist, assassin, domestic terrorist literally tried to kill the president alongside a bunch of innocent people 2 nights ago. Carolyn Levitt put together all the receipts. She brought out the proof, all of these just violence-inducing quotes from not just talking heads in the left-wing media, not a bunch of stupid leftist podcasters on the internet, not random leftists on Twitter or Reddit or Facebook. No, like senior ranking Democrat politicians in the country saying that Donald Trump is a fascist, he's a Nazi, he must be stopped at all costs, that we are at war with Donald Trump. We're at war. We got to take the fight to him. These are senior ranking Democrats. Some of the most highly ranking Democrat politicians, elected representatives in this country, are engaging in rhetoric like this. It's no surprise that we see violence, attempted violence, and also violence successfully carried out. You think of Charlie Kirk, rest in peace. God bless his soul as well. And so the DOJ and the FBI have been investigating this individual. Alan Cole is his name, I believe. And they're going to come on out here in about 3 minutes and drop some bombshell information. They've been carrying out warrants. They raided this guy's house over in California, the hotel he stayed at, what train he rode on. He rode on a train cross country. Where did he go? Where was he? Who did he talk to? His social media accounts, his Discord account, his Reddit account, his video game accounts, scouring through all the information. What did he type? Who did he talk to? What did he say? What organizations was he a part of? His bank logs. Where did his money come from? You know, all the bullet points here. They have been scouring through it for the last 2 days, day and a half, whatever. And now we're finally going to get some answers here. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Already, we saw this morning, a little bit ahead of this press conference, he has been charged with 3 counts, one of which attempting to assassinate the president of the United States of America. That's a big one. The other one was shooting off your, discharging your firearm against a federal officer, the Secret Service agent he shot. Luckily, he survived. I think he's not even that harmed. He had a bulletproof vest. God bless him. Today, we're just God blessing everyone. I guess that's the theme of the day. And then also, I guess he carried a firearm across state lines from California all the way on a train, all the way over to Washington, D.C. He had a handgun and he had a 12 gauge shotgun alongside a bunch of knives. And so anyway, today we're going live a little bit early because we are going to get to the bottom of all of this. Really, it could be just here any second now. And then, of course, folks, bear with me today. We're doing a little bit of an extended broadcast because after this press conference, then we're going to segue on and do our regular show. We have an entire hour-long show or so to conduct today. A lot of other news, a lot of other breaking news topics to break down today. Like we said, we've got some news about New York City and Mamdani. We've got some news about what's going on in Europe and NATO. And it's also tangentially related to the Middle East, this war with Iran. We have some massive news. The Democrats today have suffered a series of massive legal losses that are going to have, listen, this morning, this is maybe one of the biggest stories of the day. These legal developments that unfolded this morning are going to have massive impacts going into midterms. The Democrats right now are melting down. They're panicking. They know they're on the cusp of losing everything. It's going to be one hell of a show. Thank you all very much for being here today. 15 minutes early. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. It means a lot. Now, I think we have a moment here to take a look at some super chats real quick. We have Squeaks, too. He says, politicians should not tell us if there is a fascist or whatever. It's up to we the people. Demon rats in power, media are the terrorists. You know, some of you are older than me. You might remember this. The progressives, the Democrats, the far left, they've been doing this like forever. They've been calling Donald Trump a Nazi, fascist, whatever, Hitler for 11 years. Before that, they called Mitt Romney on the 2012 campaign trail when he was campaigning against Barack Hussein Obama. They called Romney a Nazi and a fascist. They called, before that, it was George Bush. We had 8 years. No, it was John McCain. It was John McCain in the 2008 election, similarly, versus Barack Hussein Obama. McCain was a Nazi. He's a fascist. It was George Bush for 8 years. He's a Nazi. He's a fascist. 8 years of that was George Bush. Before that, it was George Bush Sr., and it was Reagan was a Nazi. Reagan was a Nazi and a fascist. Before that, you go back even further. You had Nixon. Nixon is a Nazi. He's a fascist. He's a blah. They've been doing this for like forever. It makes you wonder if you rewind back to like 1925, go back. This is before any of us were even alive, but who was the big bad guy before that? Were the progressives and the communists, were they calling everybody, I don't know, Napoleon? You're like Napoleon. You are Napoleonic. Oh my gosh, you're just like Napoleon. I don't know. Who were they comparing everybody to before Hitler was Hitler? I don't know. If you start flipping back through the history books, who knows, maybe they're calling people Hannibal. You're just like Hannibal. I don't know. Who the hell knows? You're like Kaiser Wilhelm. You're just like the Kaiser. Who knows? Who the hell knows? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this press conference is going to kick off here in right around 1 minute. I don't know. Actually, it should have kicked off 2 minutes ago. Sometimes they're a little bit late. That's the way it goes. I want to say thank you, Ruby Hoove. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in, Ruby. I appreciate that. You folks are in the right place this morning. This is going to be a big one. Rumor has it, I was peeling back the layers before I went live this morning with you folks. Sounds like we're going to be getting some very curious information. It sounds like this individual, this would-be presidential assassin, Cole Allen is his name, I believe. Sounds like he actually had some very curious connections that we actually don't know about yet, that soon we will know about. That he was a part of some very curious organizations, perhaps speaking, I don't even know. Word on the block, it's within the realm, it's the rumor mill this morning, that he was talking to some very curious individuals. He was a part of some very curious organizations, hanging out with some very curious groups of people. I don't know. We're going to find out this morning. We're going to find out here any minute. Any minute now. No, again, thank you all for being here. We've got, good Lord, we've got 7,700 people over on Rumble. Listen, can I tell you something? Before we get into this, folks, we are less than 10,000 followers away from 100,000 on Rumble. It's one of my burning goals. 100,000 on Rumble. If you have not followed on Rumble yet, alert, PSA, Monday morning alert, follow on Rumble. We are like so close. Okay. Thank you very much. And everybody's on YouTube. Guys, we're closing in on 1 million on YouTube. Okay. We might have 1 million on YouTube within the next 12 months, the blink of an eye. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, folks. It's happening. As they say, it's happening. Thank you all. Yesterday, I was a little bit, who was here for yesterday's live broadcast? I was a little bit irritable because I was upset about all of this news. Frankly, it pissed me off. I think a lot of you are pissed off about this story. Today, I woke up in a little bit of a better mood. And the reason why is because, well, we have this press conference. We're getting criminal accountability here. Good. Some very serious criminal charges. Also some of the other news we're going to be breaking down today. Okay, like I said, this legal stuff regarding the Democrats and midterms. We've got a lot of good news to talk about today, folks. A lot of good news today. You're pissed. I'm pissed. We're all pissed. No, we've got good news today, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going to be generally a pretty positive show today. Generally a pretty positive show. I don't want to speak too soon. Oh, I didn't even mention this. Jimmy Kimmel, everybody's favorite late night talk show. Jimmy Kimmel seems like he is on the cusp of getting fired. He might end up losing his job by the end of the day. I don't want to spoil anything because we have an entire segment coming up on that. We'll talk about that after the press conference, but Jimmy Kimmel might be losing his job. It's about time. It's about time. He's saying some pretty disgusting things, to be honest with you. I'm going to reload. I'm going to refresh here, make sure nothing. Okay. Right now, they are 5 minutes late. It's fine. We are on their time. They are not on our time. So we are on standby here, folks. Fired again. Maybe this time even for real. I'll tell you something, folks. Who in the hell is even watching these late night? Like, who is watching Kimmel? Who is watching Colbert? Who is watching Colbert? I'd rather watch Kimmel than Colbert, and I'm not watching either of them. Colbert, really, who in their right mind? Well, actually, pause that sentence. That answers the question. They're not in their right mind. I said, who in their right mind is watching Colbert? Well, they are not in their right mind. That's the answer to the question. You'd rather watch paint dry. Yeah. Like literally, me too. Watching paint dry is kind of fun, actually. You ever do painting? It's kind of fun to watch it dry. We need to come up with a better metaphor here. Hey, you know what? Watching paint dry isn't so bad. I can think of worse things. Oh, good Lord. Okay, this is a random news story real quick while we happen to be waiting for this press conference. You're not going to believe this. Breaking news, the Minnesota State Democrats have just now proposed a bill that would cut state aid, to cities that refuse to fly the new state flag pushed by Tim Walz. This on the bottom right, this is the original Minnesota state flag, beautiful, traditional, peak Americana. They replaced it with this modern, very Somalian style abomination of a flag up here on the top right. And some cities have been refusing to fly the new flag. They're waving the old flag. God bless them, as they should. And now the state government is going to be cutting aid to any city that refuses to wave this new Somali-esque flag. It really is absolutely astounding. It really just is absolutely astounding. President Trump, we'll just go through some little tidbit news here while we wait for this press conference to begin here, folks. President Trump has just issued a big statement, a big post on Truth Social. He says this: the radical left Democrats have kept the Department of Homeland Security shut down since February 14th. That's right. It's been well over 2 months. Our great Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is working very hard to end this Democrat shutdown and pass the first step of a plan to get full funding for our incredible ICE agents and Border Patrol agents. We need all Republicans to join together and support this budget blueprint, which will allow us to bypass Democrat obstruction in the Senate and fund immigration enforcement with only Republican votes. The Senate passed this blueprint last week on Thursday morning, and now House Republicans must unify and pass this very same blueprint to get the bill done. I've asked for the final bill on my desk by June 1st. What is that, 4 days from now? April, no, I'm sorry. That's a month and 4 days from now. I'm getting ahead of myself. And we can make that deadline if we keep to the plan. Fast, focused. Let's take care of our great agents of law enforcement. Thank you for your attention to this matter. DHS shut down. I mean, folks, we had for a long time TSA agents working with no pay. We still have Secret Service agents working with no pay. It's terrible. The Democrats these days, their entire political strategy is what can only be described as political terrorism. What do I mean by that? Well, this is what they're doing. Trump and the Republicans, if you don't give us exactly what we want, when we want it, in the exact way that we want it, then we're going to shut down the government. Then we are going to shut down the DHS. Then we are going to unleash all of our paid protesters in every single city across the country. We are going, look what happened when Elon Musk and the DOJ, the Department of Government Efficiency, tried to finally crack down and root out fraud, waste, corruption, and abuse inside the federal government. The Democrats, they said, no, you're not. They started blowing up Tesla dealerships and shooting at random Teslas, just like random people driving Teslas across the country, Cybertrucks, stabbing their tires. Flat tire. They were scratching in the side of the car with their keys. This is terrorism. They said, how dare you push back on our progressive agenda? We're going to shut down the government, shut down the DHS. We're going to blow up Tesla dealerships, blow up Teslas. We're going to start blowing up and shooting at ICE facilities across the country. ICE agents have had instances of assaults against them increased by what, like 3,000%? It's insane. It's crazy. It's crazy. I see Snoops in the chat says Adam Carolla is better than Jimmy Kimmel. You know what's so funny is if you rewind, what must be 20 years ago. Do you remember when both of them, Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel, had a TV show? It was called The Man Show. The Man Show. Do you remember that? And it was like, frankly, it was like the most misogynistic show ever. It was like super sexist, super raunchy, male, locker room humor. They had girls in bikinis dancing around. It was like, by today's standards, it was like very misogynistic. And it was Jimmy Kimmel who was doing all the jokes. That show would not age well. You could not play that TV show on air these days. In fact, I very clearly remember Jimmy Kimmel doing blackface. Do you remember Jimmy Kimmel doing blackface? He spray painted himself black. He came out, he was pretending to be a basketball player, if I remember, and he put on this old, like, super racist black stereotype accent from like the 1920s or something. It was bad. However, guess what? Karl Malone, that was his name. That was his blackface name. Anyway, now because he's a member of the progressive elite, he's a member of the left-wing establishment, it's not a problem. They all play coverage for him. You're only not allowed to make racist or misogynistic jokes if you're on the right side of the aisle. If you're on the left side of the aisle, well, you can do whatever you want. I mean, hey, if you're a leftist politician, you can do blackface and then get elected as the Prime Minister of Canada, for God's sake. Remember that? Trudeau. He got caught doing blackface. No problem. He's a leftist, whatever. It's all good. Whatever. I mean, you have we're going to be talking about Virginia today during today's broadcast. You have the Virginia State Attorney General who literally had text messages of his talking about killing the children of Republicans. Seriously, he was, whatever that guy's name is, Jay Jones, I think that's his name. He was talking in these messages that got leaked about how great it would be to kill and butcher the children of Republicans, of conservative Americans. Still, they voted for him. Still, now he is the Attorney General of Virginia State. These people are psychotic. These people are psychotic. You remember that? That's his name. Live. Well, is it official? Oh, yes, it is. Here we go, folks. All right. We've got the news.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. On Saturday night, as you all know, an act of violence occurred at a gathering that symbolizes something fundamental to our system of government: the ability of a free press and public officials to come together in celebration and not fear. The act was stopped because of the courage and, that horrible act was stopped because of the courage and professionalism of law enforcement. The officers who responded without hesitation and did their jobs as they were trained to do. Secret Service agents promptly tackled and detained the suspect, Cole Thomas Allen. The president and all the protectees and participants at the dinner were safe. One brave officer was injured and is receiving care and has been released from the hospital. I want to make this clear. This man was a floor above the ballroom with hundreds of federal agents between him and the President of the United States. The Department of Justice approaches incidents like this with urgency and clarity of purpose. Violence has no place in civic life. It cannot and will not be used to disrupt democratic institutions or intimidate those who serve them, and it certainly cannot continue to be used against the President of the United States. We are investigating this matter fully. We will apply the law fairly, and we will ensure that accountability is swift and certain. But we also should recognize what did not happen. Law enforcement did not fail. They did exactly what they are trained to do. This was not an accident. It was the result, as we know now, of preparation. But the men and women who protected us that night were trained, professional, and had an enduring commitment to the rule of law. Today, the Department of Justice filed 3 federal charges in United States District Court against Cole Thomas Allen. The first count is attempted assassination of the President of the United States. This count is punishable by up to life in prison. The second count is interstate transportation of a firearm to commit a felony. This is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And the third count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, which is punishable by a mandatory minimum term of imprisonment of 10 years, a maximum of life, and the 10 years is consecutive to any other sentence imposed. Just to go through very quickly the timeline, which many of you in this room already know. The defendant, Allen, made a hotel reservation at the Washington Hilton for April 24th through April 26th. On April 21st of this year, he traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Washington, D.C.
Yep.
On April 24th, he arrived in Washington, D.C. at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon and checked into the Washington Hilton. Approximately at 8:40 on the night of April 25th, Allen approached a security checkpoint on the terrace level of the hotel, which is again a floor above where the dinner was taking place. He ran through the magnetometer holding a long gun. As he did so, U.S. Secret Service personnel assigned to the checkpoint heard a loud gunshot. One Secret Service officer was shot in the chest, but was wearing a ballistic vest that worked.
Thank God.
This heroic officer who was hit fired 5 times at Allen, who was not shot, but fell to the ground and was promptly arrested. I want to thank everybody who worked tirelessly on Saturday, Sunday, and continuing today. This includes members of the FBI, and Director Patel is going to address that in a minute. It includes members of the Metropolitan Police Department who were immediately on the scene, the chief, the mayor, to make sure that law enforcement was available to do their jobs and had all the tools they needed to do so. And lastly, the United States Attorney's Office here in D.C., our U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro and her team. Prosecutors stayed up all night long, didn't sleep all day yesterday, making sure that we got what we needed from all over the country. It included search warrants in California, search warrants here in D.C., multiple interviews that have been conducted already of witnesses and of family members of the charged individual, and continue to work hard today. This investigation is ongoing. It's not complete. A lot of the information that the media is hearing through leaks or sources, some of it is true, some of it is not true, and at the right time you will hear information from us as appropriate. I'd like to ask our U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro to say a few words, and then followed by Director Patel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Cole Allen's journey of accountability in the criminal justice system starts today. Todd Blanche just indicated to you the charges. Those charges are only 3 charges that are in the complaint that has been presented in federal district court about an hour ago. There will be additional charges as this investigation continues to unfold. But make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could. This is the kind of situation that we cannot tolerate. And as the Attorney General has just indicated, it could have been so much worse, but for the reality that we had the Secret Service, as well as the Metropolitan Police Department and the FBI. Now, the facts make it very clear what this intent was. You may recall that it was on March 2nd that the president indicated that he would be attending this public event at the Hilton. And on April 6th, that's when Cole Allen first made a hotel reservation at the Washington Hilton for 3 nights, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. It was on April 21st that he traveled all the way from the West Coast, from his home near L.A. He gets to Chicago on April 23rd and has been indicated he arrives in D.C. on the 24th, and he checks into the hotel at about 3 p.m. He stays overnight. He is very much aware that the president and the first lady entered the ballroom at 8 p.m. And it was at 8:40 that he made a decision to rush the ballroom. And thank goodness, law enforcement, the Secret Service, was able to prevent him from getting into that ballroom. He was not injured other than some kind of scrape on his knee. Now, as indicated, these are the weapons that the defendant had on his person. You can see that's a 12-gauge pump-action Mossberg shotgun. Yep. It's a .38 semi-automatic. He had at least 3 knives and all kinds of paraphernalia. So any suggestion that he wasn't there to do harm is absurd. We will prove when he purchased these guns. They were purchased in California. Why is that relevant? It is relevant because he crossed interstate lines with those firearms, and those are the firearms that he used on the night of the 25th, or attempted to use at the very least. Now, the manifesto also makes clear about his expected rules of engagement. You know, you can look at it and read it, and it may seem kind of la, but at the end, make no mistake, he says, I am targeting the administration officials. They are my targets, and I'm prioritizing from the top down, the highest ranking from the lowest. And I will not hesitate to get involved in any kind of encounter with anyone who blocks me from the president.
Yep.
Now, finally, let me say one thing. Within days of the president nominating me to be the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, I was at the scene of a double homicide where one Elias Rodriguez crossed state lines from Chicago with a firearm to commit a felony in the district. He's now indicted for the murder of 2 individuals, Laron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, here in Washington. Not long after that, another individual, Ramanullah Lockenwall, crossed state lines, again with a firearm, with intent to commit a felony here in Washington. He traveled from the state of Washington. He is now indicted with the murder of Sarah Beckstrom, a National Guardsman, and the attempted murder of National Guard Andrew Wolf. Today, we have Cole Allen, another individual, charged with crossing state lines coming from California with a firearm with the intent to commit a felony here in the district. Let this be a message to anyone who thinks that Washington, D.C. is the place to act out political violence. And if you are willing to do so with a firearm and cross state lines, we will find you, we will track your steps from the inception of your plan, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Washington, D.C. is not the place to travel to commit acts of violence. The Constitution and the laws of the United States permit us to register our views through our voices and our votes. What they don't permit is making your views known through violence, especially violence directed at the President of the United States. This is anti-democratic at its core.
Imagine that.
Thank you, Judge. Excuse me. Thank you, General. This one hits a little differently. We were all there. Many of you were there. Many of you watching were there as well. The president was there. The vice president was there. The cabinet was there. And what you saw, described by the general and the U.S. attorney, is absolutely true. The president spoke on late Saturday evening with the message of unity and a backing of law enforcement, and we have followed through on that message of unity and the effectuation of law enforcement across this country. This FBI is grateful to the United States Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security, and our interagency partners, including the Metropolitan Police Department, for swiftly jumping into action. All of us on there put us in a unique position, but all of us also acted uniquely. The Washington field office jumped into action immediately, sending a mobile command center to the scene, along with our evidence response technicians, who showed up in speedy fashion to make sure we could collect the evidence that the prosecutors and the department needed to make this announcement today. Also on scene, you were told about the brave heroics of the United States Secret Service and other members of law enforcement. And that should be celebrated by every single American. They did exactly what they were trained to do. They stopped a massive attack from becoming even worse. They stood in the way, they safeguarded America, and they should be nothing but applauded for their bravery and their dedication to their mission and their selfless sacrifice to this country. The FBI, along with standing up mobile command units, evidence tech response team, and Washington SWAT on scene, also established our NC3, our National Crisis Coordination Center, almost immediately. And almost immediately in parallel, we stood up our command center at the Washington field office under ADIC Darren Cox's leadership. Throughout the evening, we immediately began working with our Department of Justice partners to find the evidence necessary to effectuate the legal process necessary and enter into the suspect's room at the Washington Hilton successfully and lawfully and obtain the relevant evidence for exploitation. That was on scene. Back at the headquarters division and the Washington field office, we were coordinating a national scale investigation that literally spanned from coast to coast. As you heard, FBI agents, along with the interagency, were immediately dispatched to the suspect's home in California, where we conducted interviews that provided critical information about this horrific attack. We also dispatched investigators and agents to New London, Connecticut, where we conducted further interviews that provided necessary information that you will find in this criminal complaint, as the United States Attorney has just laid out. While officers were working diligently through the night to conduct those interviews, we were also conducting interviews of witnesses on scene. Those interviews are ongoing. As you know, there was almost 2,000 people there. We are sifting through and prioritizing who to talk to, and we will get to each and every one of you with any bit of relevant information. Again, we ask everybody who has any relevant information, like I did on Saturday night with the president, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Any piece of information is information we want to have and must receive. On top of the on-scene response by this FBI, the headquarters response, and the Washington field office response, the FBI flipped on its enterprise-wide response to this critical incident. What does that mean? We dispatched fixed-wing assets across the country so that we could immediately transport evidence that was acquired in California and Connecticut and sent it to our laboratories in Quantico for analysis. We collected the shell casings on scene, including the firearms and the weapons that the judge talked about. Those were also sent to our Quantico laboratories for immediate analysis. America should be proud that this FBI acted with the urgency that was needed for the moment that we had to answer. The president rightly said that we will act in a unified fashion, and it's because of President Trump's leadership and backing of the blue, every single person in law enforcement that I stood with into the late evening hours on Saturday, early evening hours on Sunday, and all day yesterday and today are thrilled to wear the badge and defend this country. Each and every one of them deserves our thanks, and I encourage everyone listening to go out there and shake the hand of a federal agent or police officer and say thank you for doing their job. Thank you for training endlessly to make sure they meet the mission requirements. And for me, as the director of the FBI, I want to thank our headquarters components for working diligently with our prosecutors and make sure that the American public knows it's not just federal agents that do this work. It's our intelligence analysts, our support staff, our laboratories, our fixed-wing assets, our critical incident response groups, our hostage rescue teams. Agents sprung into action, got out of bed, and haven't slept since. These prosecutors haven't slept since, and I promise you they're not going to be sleeping. They are going to give you every piece of evidence. As the journal said, we will make public, when appropriate, to protect the integrity of this investigation, to make sure that due process is served, and we will meet the highest standards of the Constitution, as we always do. And that is when we will continue to disclose information. I know the public has a yearning for information, but just remind yourself of how much information you have already received, how transparent this administration has been. In less than 48 hours, you know almost every single thing we know. And what we have not told you yet, we will tell you in short order. So once again, from me, as director of the FBI, I want to thank the interagency. I want to thank the United States Secret Service and their director, Mark Wayne Mullen, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Attorney General of the United States, Attorney Pirro, and Ada Cox for springing into action on a night that should have been celebrating free speech, but we will be doing it again shortly, as the President said, and we look forward to seeing you all there.
Questions? Okay.
2 questions, please. Beyond the evidence and what the judge described as the manifesto, what other evidence can you point to that tells us that the president was the primary target of the suspect?
So we're a day and a half into the investigation. As we talked about earlier, we were able to get multiple devices from various locations, the hotel room and also his where he lived in California. We have started that process. There's nothing more that would be appropriate to share at this time until we have thoroughly gone through it, which we're doing, and we'll share that information as appropriate in the future. Second question, go ahead.
Beyond the assassination attempts against President Trump, you had someone try to burn down the mansion where the governor lives in Pennsylvania. You had those state lawmakers attacked in Minnesota. You've had 2 Israeli embassy staff members murdered in the city here. You had the Charlie Kirk assassination. You had the National Guardsman killed in the city. Can you, each of you, describe the current threat environment and what DOJ's stance is about it?
Well, you just described the current threat environment pretty accurately, which is that the political violence and rhetoric has got to stop. And that's something President Trump said right after the incident on Saturday night. It's something that Carolyn Leavitt talked about a couple hours ago. It is something that is, when you have a president who and many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it, have done it as well. They're just as guilty as a lot of people on X. When you have reporters, when you have media just being overly critical and calling the president horrible names for no reason and without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place. If you look at what it appears that this defendant had in his past, we're talking about somebody who is college educated, who has a job, who is otherwise living his life, and we'll find out more about him, as I expect, in the coming days and weeks. But he chose to do what he did, and so our threat environment is we are ready. I mean, I'm not going to go through what Director Patel just talked about with the way we responded, but this was something that we will always be prepared for, and it's sad that it has to happen, but it's not a new thing, unfortunately.
Have you been able to determine whether the gunman fired shots? If so, how many shots he fired, and who exactly, whose bullet hit the agent?
We want to get that right. So we're still looking at that. It appears, and I don't want to overstate because we are still looking at this, that there were five shots that law enforcement fired. We have all the evidence is being examined very carefully and expeditiously, and we'll know more soon. We do believe that, as the complaint lays out, that the suspect, that the defendant fired it out of his shotgun, and we know that happened. But as far as getting into exacting ballistics, I'm not going to do that today because it's still being looked at and finalized.
Thank you for taking my question. You personally have called for a construction of this ballroom at the White House. The president has called for this as well. Today, the National Trust president put out a statement, says that they're grateful that everybody's okay, but, and I quote, "We are not planning to voluntarily dismiss our lawsuit, which endangers no one, and which respectfully ask the administration to follow the law. Ballroom construction is continuing unabated until June 5th at the earliest because the injunction is on hold." Where does the Justice Department go from here? And then I have a follow-up on that.
Well, we filed a motion today asking the court to do what the plaintiffs refused to do. We absolutely believe that there is no better example of why this ballroom is necessary, aside from all the very positive things the ballroom will bring to this country and to Washington, D.C., than what happened on Saturday night. You guys, many of you all were there. That's one of the only places in D.C. that you can hold an event like that due to its size and the structure of what we need. So we're basically stuck at this point in the city with having an event like that at a hotel, so underneath a ton of hotel rooms. And so the fact that we, aside from the fact that the ballroom is spectacular, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to make this country look great every time it's used, it's also a meaningful safety issue. And so I very much wish that the plaintiffs and their counsel would take a different view, but if they don't, we are going to continue to fight in court like we have been, and hopefully the judges at the D.C. Circuit Court will do the right thing. Beck.
Are you aware of...
Not you, the red.
Thank you.
Not you.
Are you investigating connections that Cole Allen allegedly had to left-wing groups? I think one is called the Wide Awakes, reportedly.
Ooh.
Yes. Of course we're investigating that. Now you.
Are you aware of his video game development past, including a potential shooter-style RPG game?
I've seen the news reports that talk about that. I think that the positive and negatives of this type of case is that there's a lot of people investigating this man right now, including the FBI. But the only investigations that truly matter in the court of law are the ones that Director Patel and his men and women are doing. So we'll wait for them to do that and get an answer.
Just really quick, what do you know anything about his alleged Christian past, Christian faith past, because he said something about it in the manifesto?
I have read reports in the news, and I've read reports that say various things regarding his views of Christianity, his views in the past of Christianity, and I'm certainly not going to speak to news reports. I will wait, as I hope all of you would, for the investigation to continue until we actually have answers. Yeah.
Just a little technical question. You mentioned that you guys, so far, you think that Allen fired at least one shot. That doesn't say that in the affidavit yet, so I'm just curious if you can explain the discharging of weapon charge at this point.
Well, he's charged with violating 924C, discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. So by definition, that charge means that it was discharged. I can tell you from what I know, with the understanding that we're a day and a half in, that this is the gun that he discharged. Yeah. And as those of us that have ever shot one of these know, what happens when you shoot that is the casing stays inside the firearm, and then if you reload it, it pops it out. My understanding is that it was inside the firearm, but hadn't been ejected, which means that it hadn't been pulled back again. But again, I want folks to understand, I'm the acting attorney general. I'm not on the ground doing the investigation, so I'm telling you what I've been told, and we'll, if that information changes, I'm sure that we'll let you know.
The smoking gun.
I just want to ask you about this letter that you posted yesterday that's sent from Brett Shumate to the plaintiffs in that lawsuit. It says that the Washington Hilton is, quote, demonstrably unsafe for the President of the United States. It said that with the ballroom, that Trump will no longer need to venture beyond the safety of the White House perimeter. Just engaging with those lines, was there an assessment in advance of the dinner that the Hilton was demonstrably unsafe? And if so, why was President Trump allowed to attend it? And then separately, just the idea that by building the ballroom that President Trump wouldn't need to go outside of the confines of the White House. I mean, is that something that the American people, should find acceptable, that the president would have to be, for major events, confined to the White House? It seems like kind of a castle situation.
That is obviously not what he means by that. And the fact that question comes with respect to President Trump is laughable in the extreme. I mean, laughable in the extreme. You have a president who willingly speaks with you guys multiple times a day, I would say 7 days a week. He is active all over the country. I think with that, keeping it to the four corners of that statement, when he says demonstrably, it's demonstrated by what happened on Saturday night. So that doesn't mean that the Secret Service would ever let the president go into an unsafe environment. I know that the director of the Secret Service will be focused on making sure that we always keep him safe. And by the way, as we said before, and as anybody that was in that room knows, we were safe. We were safe. We heard a lot of loud noises that at the time many of us thought could be guns going off. It was mostly plates falling because of the staff, understandably, were running. So my reaction to that is I'll leave anything with respect to security up to the great men and women of the Secret Service. But when we talk about having an environment like the ballroom, it's an environment like what you saw last night. So an environment where you have a unique blend of cabinet members, leadership of this country, leadership of Congress, reporters and members of the public coming together for an event like that. That's different than other public-facing situations, which I have no doubt President Trump will continue to do as he said he would on Saturday night. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there, for FBI Director Patel, is there any other credible threats at this time related to events in the city, including King Charles? And then separately, the manifesto, I don't really want to give too much weight to this, did mention your name in it as someone that they maybe were not targeting. Do you want to kind of elaborate on that? And then also the political motivations there.
As to the latter, no. As to the former, The FBI and the interagency is constantly evaluating intelligence provided to us by interagency collection methods. Our partners in the federal and state and local levels, we are constantly relaying that information to the White House, to the Attorney General, to the United States Attorney, specifically here in D.C. And we will always assess each piece of intelligence and base it on the credibility that it was received and give it the due weight that it has. But as the U.S. Attorney has stated, and as President Trump's task force for Washington, D.C. has shown, we have reduced crime in this city by historic levels, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to safeguard the men and women that call Washington, D.C. their home.
All right, just a couple more.
Acting Attorney General, in paragraph 14 of the complaint today, it says that the suspect fell, and you said that he was tackled. I just want to see if we can try to make sure we understand.
Well, I think that both can be true. And I would rely on the complaint because that was sworn to by an agent and not by the words out of the acting attorney general, who most certainly was not there. But I think both can be true.
The U.S. attorney yesterday also mentioned that one of the charges possibly would be for assault on an officer, and I noticed today it's a different charge. Is this because you've determined that what he shot didn't actually strike the officer?
We're still looking at that, and I think that's something that you'll hear about in the coming days as we know the answer to that. It doesn't legally matter in that situation, but you know, when after an event like this happens, not surprisingly, there's initial charges that we consider. Then you have the U.S. Attorney's team and the FBI looking through the evidence and figuring out what's the best thing to do, and that's what you have. Right? Just one more question. Yeah.
I have two quick questions. One,
All right, two
I
questions.
just wanted to clarify, you said the one officer fired their weapon 5 times. Was that the only officer who discharged a firearm?
I want to be very careful in answering that question because this is, when you do ballistics evidentiary collection and research, it is very complicated. So when you fire a bullet, the bullet ends up somewhere. Sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't. And so from that, with that qualifier, we believe right now that there was 5 shots fired from the same firearm. But there's a team of folks looking at this that are experts, and the evidence collection team that were in that area of the hotel where the shots were fired will work all night. They have the evidence they collected, but it's not an exact science from the standpoint that, for example, the buckshot, when that shot, it scatters everywhere. Sometimes it just disappears, actually, depending on where it hits. So you don't have to, hopefully with that qualifier, that's where we are right now.
Question about the timeline, sir.
Hold on.
I just wanted to ask what law enforcement has learned about why he was targeting President Trump. Do you guys believe he was upset about a certain policy or decision by the president?
Why do you think?
The complaint lays out what I think is described as a manifesto, which is something that he allegedly sent to many folks, his family. That's what we have so far as his motivation. As the U.S. Attorney said a few minutes ago, what is clear from the complaint and from what we have so far is he was targeting President Trump. He described that in his manifesto. He was targeting administration officials. He described that. But as far as us understanding additional motivation, that's for the FBI and law enforcement. All right, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can you talk about the Amtrak security measures? Will there be any announcement about
Wow. So you do not have to be very smart to be a journalist these days, do you? Why do you think he did it? Do you think he was targeting the president? Or, and if he was targeting the president, why? What do you think? So, like I said, you don't have to be very smart to be a journalist these days. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, can I say something real quick? And I don't mean any disrespect, of course, towards anybody. I am very happy that now we have Todd Blanche instead of his predecessor. I think that it's only been like a month or less. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is far superior so far. Seems to me, humble opinion, I'm just like one guy, but seems like we have a pretty big improvement here. So that's the first thing. Second off, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say, folks, do not go anywhere because we still have an entire show ahead of us. We have a lot to talk about today. Today we're going into overtime. We're doing an extended show. We just covered this DOJ FBI press conference, got some good information. Okay, seems like this guy's going to spend his entire life in prison. If it was up to me, that's a little bit generous. Listen, you know how much money it costs us taxpayers to keep a guy like this alive inside of a federal maximum security prison? It's like $40,000 or $45,000 a year, or maybe more now. We could solve this problem for like $1 or less, probably less, maybe 65 cents. It's not even that expensive. And who knows, we might end up seeing that. I don't know. I mean, this guy tried to kill the freaking president. It seems pretty obvious what we should do here in this circumstance, but hey, you know what? I don't know. I guess maybe that's not going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about some other news here because we have a lot to talk about today. Before we get to it, do me a favor. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. We are just getting going, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday. Let's get into this. First off, let's start with some good news. I think you're going to like this. Ladies and gentlemen, disgraced late night talk show host who goes by the name of Jimmy Kimmel, well, he might just be on the cusp of losing his entire career. Well, whatever's left of it, that is. You see, after the very recent attempt against President Trump's life, Mr. Jimmy Kimmel last night had this to say. Take a look.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
And everybody's laughing. Jimmy Kimmel got up here one day after she and her husband, everybody else, survived an attempted assassination. He got up here and said, wow, look at you. You look like you have a glow about you, the glow of an expectant widow, mocking her, ridiculing this attempt that was made against her husband, the President of the United States. In response, Melania Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, just absolutely shameful that he would say something like that. God bless her soul, Melania Trump said this very morning. Jimmy Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and only deepens the political sickness within the United States of America. Totally true. She goes on to say, people like Jimmy Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening and spread hate. A coward. Jimmy Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It is time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? Folks, you've got to say something pretty messed up to piss off Melania Trump. She normally doesn't get involved. She normally does not issue statements like this. She's saying enough is enough. This guy's disgusting. He's invading our homes every single night by medium of the television, his show on ABC, to spread his hatred and divide our country. She's absolutely right. She says enough is enough. So really, in effect, she's calling for his removal from ABC, the cancellation of his TV show. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments down below. I agree. Yeah, get this guy off the TV. Cancel this guy's TV show. Yes, of course. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt followed up saying this morning.
Much of the manifesto of the would-be assassin is indistinguishable from the words that we hear daily from so many. For example, as the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late-night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband?
Disgusting.
And having experienced what I did with the First Lady on Saturday night, I can tell you that she was anything but that. This kind of rhetoric about the president, the First Lady, and his supporters is completely deranged, and it's unbelievable that the American people are consuming it night after night after night. As President Trump said on Saturday night at this podium, we as Americans must recommit ourselves to resolving our differences peacefully and uniting around the shared values that make our country great. The deranged lies and smears against the president, his family, his supporters have led crazy people to believe crazy things, and they are inspired to commit violence because of those words.
And then people like Jimmy Kimmel get up there and make a joke about it. They sort of hand wave it. They play coverage for the violent rhetoric and the violence itself. Now, luckily, I'll give you some good news here. Not that many people watch Jimmy Kimmel anymore. Yes, it is true. What he said is disgusting. Almost everything that this guy says is disgusting. He, as an individual, as a human being, he is disgusting. Luckily, every single day, every single month, every single year, fewer and fewer and fewer Americans, anybody, fewer people are watching his show because people have had enough. So thank God. You know what? Maybe it is about time for his show to get canceled. Barely anybody watches anyway at this point. Now, President Trump, of course, following this statement from his lovely wife, the FLOTUS, Melania Trump, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, President Trump chimed in this morning as well. He said this: "Wow, Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, as attested to by his terrible television ratings, made a statement on his show that is really shocking. He showed a fake video of the First Lady, Melania, and our son, Barron, like they were actually sitting in his studio listening to him speak, which they weren't and never would be." So it was a fake. I didn't even know that. That's even more disgusting. Wow. President Trump says, he then stated, "Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow." A day later, a lunatic tried entering the ballroom of the White House Correspondents' Dinner loaded up with a shotgun, handgun, and many knives. He was there for a very obvious and sinister reason. I appreciate that so many people are incensed by Kimmel's despicable calls to violence and normally would not be responsive to anything that he said, but this is something far beyond the pale. Jimmy Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump, signing that with his presidential name. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question in the audience here. Do you think that it's about time that Jimmy Kimmel gets canceled and shut down? He was on the cusp, the precipice of getting canceled. ABC tried to get rid of him. You know, deep down, they want to get rid of him. They tried to get rid of him maybe 9 or 10 months ago. There was an uproar from the far left, from the radical left. No, you can't get rid of him. We love Jimmy Kimmel. It's funny because nobody actually watches him, but there was an uproar nonetheless. They circled the wagons, so to speak. The far left circled the wagons around Jimmy Kimmel, and ABC was sort of pressured, bullied almost by the far left. Okay, we're not going to cancel the show. They should have canceled his show 9 months ago. Now, at this point, now they have an absolutely beyond justifiable reason. Now we have the pretense. ABC has got the pretense to permanently cancel this guy and shut him down. You know what, Jimmy Kimmel, how about this? Let's issue a little bit of a challenge here. If so many people really love Jimmy Kimmel, if so many people are such diehard fans and loyalists of Mr. Kimmel, you know what? Then your show gets canceled. Start up a podcast. Make a YouTube channel, Mr. Kimmel. If so many people really love you, then surely they will follow you to YouTube or Rumble, and they'll watch your podcast or your show. You can continue doing your show on Rumble. Everybody does it these days. I mean, I'm doing it right now. Kimmel, I'm sure you will find success. Come on over. Let's see really how many people like to watch you. That would be very telling. Until then, I think it's about time he gets canceled because we need to put America first. Ladies and gentlemen, there is our daily Jimmy Kimmel update. You remember when Don Lemon, he got canceled, he got kicked off CNN, and then he made his own Don Lemon podcast. Remember that? And nobody watched it. Don Lemon went from one of the biggest, I guess, CNN talking heads, canceled, he's fired because he's a freak. He made a podcast on YouTube. Literally nobody watched it, like dead on arrival. It's funny how that works. It's almost as if none of these talking heads on the mainstream media, well, on the left-wing mainstream media, it's like none of them even have any talent. Nobody really cares. They're just like shoved in our faces by nature of, you know, having a show on CNN or MS Now, whatever. They're being shoved in our faces. Really, nobody even wants to watch these people. That seems to be the case. because once people actually are given a choice on YouTube or Rumble, nobody tunes into these shows. Can't help but notice that really does seem to be the case. Now, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of members of the left that have been shoved in our faces, what do you say we do a little segment talking about Mamdani? Because we actually have some big news, really seriously some big news coming out of New York. We have a lot to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, New York City's brand new communist mayor Mamdani has only been in office for right around 5 months now, not even half a year. But still, already, the city of New York is pretty much imploding. Chaos and crime is absolutely surging through the streets, unchecked and unfettered. Business owners and families in New York City are now fleeing that city altogether. And it's all because of Mamdani's absolutely insane, radically progressive policies, which really just boil down to one, raising taxes on everyone, and then turning a blind eye to every single type of crime imaginable. Now, today, we actually have some massive updates coming out of Mamdani's communist utopia, New York City. Guess what? All hell is breaking loose. But first, take a look at what President Trump himself just recently had to say about Mamdani just a couple days ago. President Trump said this: "Sadly, Mayor Mamdani is destroying New York City. It has no chance. The United States of America should not contribute to its failure. It will only get worse. The tax policies of Mamdani are so wrong. People are fleeing. They must change their ways and fast. History has proven this stuff doesn't work." Thank you for your attention to this matter. When we talk about stuff, when President Trump says this stuff doesn't work, what do you think he's talking about? Of course, he's talking about Mamdani's communist political policies. This stuff doesn't work. Communist policies like this don't work. They never have. Literally, they never have. And you know what? President Trump is absolutely right. Because of Mamdani's insane policies, everything in New York is, guess what, becoming more expensive. Take a look at this. Just in, breaking news. A new study has proven that Mamdani's affordable city-run grocery store is actually 10 times more expensive than Whole Foods per square foot. You thought Whole Foods was expensive? Mamdani tried to make a communist grocery store, affordable city-run grocery store. It's 10 times more expensive than Whole Foods. What are you you're gonna pay like $150 for a banana or something. Ridiculous. But it's the case nonetheless. But also now, massive businesses are just getting fed up. They're getting driven out of the city altogether, taking their jobs and all of their tax money with them. Take a look at this report. This will blow your mind.
The mayor of New York getting pushback from billionaire Ken Griffin and his company called Citadel. Griffin threatening to not go forward with his planned project in Midtown Manhattan. That would create, he says, 15,000 permanent jobs.
Now, this all started when Mayor Mamdani made a social media video pushing for his and the governor's pied-à-terre tax, and doing it right in front of Griffin's apartment on Central Park South. Griffin bought it for $238 million back in 2019, even though he's not technically a New York City resident.
Oh, politics in New York City. NJ Burkett live in Midtown Manhattan with the mayor's reaction and what happens now. Newt?
Yeah, Bill, outside Griffin's apartment here on Central Park South, this is where Mamdani made his video last week. He campaigned, of course, as a democratic socialist, and he insists tonight he's doing exactly what he was elected to do.
Real quick, democratic socialist is a propaganda phrase for communist. Anytime somebody says democratic socialist, what they really mean, what that actually means in reality, is communist. Fact of the matter.
So a clash with the city's billionaires was all but inevitable. Mayor Mamdani was making no apologies today. Asked if he regrets the video, his answer was simple.
That home, when it was purchased, was the most expensive home in the United States of America.
Last week, the mayor stood outside 220 Central Park South.
Today, we're taxing the rich.
to promote a new tax on ultra-luxury second homes.
This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate but who don't actually live here.
Case in point, the penthouse on the 53rd floor,
which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million.
Griffin lives in Miami, CEO of Citadel, a hedge fund that employs 2,500 people in New York.
Okay.
In a memo to the staff, the chief operating officer wrote, quote, "It is shameful that he used Ken's name as the example of those who supposedly aren't carrying their fair share. Griffin and the staff paid $2.3 billion in city and state taxes," he said, and Griffin himself directed $650 million in charitable gifts to city institutions. That their planned 1,600-foot tower on Park Avenue will create over 20,000 mostly permanent jobs. Then adding, the project, if we move forward, will entail more than $6 billion of spending. If Griffin is reconsidering, Mamdani seems unconcerned.
I am intent, however, on balancing this budget in a manner that asks the wealthiest and the most profitable corporations to pay that little bit more so that everyone can afford to live in the city. And that means Ken Griffin, and that means so many others across the city. And that also means those who would love to join us in the city.
Here's what happens. We've seen this time and time again. When a communist, a far-left radical progressives gets in a position of power, the first thing they try to do is raise taxes on everyone that makes more money than them. Not just the billionaires, but people that make more. It's like 150, 200,000. You're paying taxes more. Also, you need to subsidize all of these illegal aliens residing in the city. They need free food and free shelter, and you're paying for it, hardworking American taxpayer. Well, guess what? Most people, especially people with the means to leave, they're not going to take they're going to leave. Billionaires, millionaires, people that make a decent income, they're moving out of town. A lot of them are going down to places like Florida. They're going to Texas. They're not going to be subjected to taxpayer torture like this. They just leave. And before you know it, your town becomes a third world ghetto hellhole.
Mamdani believes he won a mandate, destined perhaps to clash with the city's billionaires.
They will do everything they can to prevent their grip from weakening.
Some in the business community tonight are urging caution.
It's a big ecosystem here, and by villainizing the wealthier people that are providing a lot of the jobs for the middle class, ultimately you get a smaller pool of jobs for the middle class, and then who wins in that environment?
Well, there are conflicting studies tonight as to whether higher taxes will lead to an exodus from New York City, and the real impact of the second home tax will, of course, depend on how it is written.
There are conflicting studies. It's up for debate whether or not higher taxes will compel rich people, even just middle-income people, to leave the city. It's actually not really up for debate because what is currently happening in New York has already happened in California and Oregon and the Portland area, everywhere in Washington and Seattle, other places as well. They jack up taxes. I mean, there's like an infinite number of historical precedents of this happening. Jack up taxes, people leave, they go somewhere else. They go to more favorable taxpayer environments. There already has been a mass exodus out of California and Oregon and Washington, people leaving these states, not just people, individuals. That's my story, but also multi-billion-dollar businesses, companies, whatever. They're not going to they'll leave. And what's going to be left is going to be a third world hellhole ghetto. Now, let's talk about the crime, because under Mamdani's leadership, if you can even call it that, crime and chaos is similarly absolutely surging in New York City. I want you to take a listen to this.
Well, lawlessness in the Big Apple is rampant and out of control under socialist Muslim Mayor Zohran Mamdani. And these latest viral videos are painting a picture of chaos on the streets. Violent attacks, open drug use, and reckless drag race takeovers. Joining me now, retired NYPD Chief of Department, John Chell. John, thank you so much for joining me this evening. You know, has New York completely lost control of its streets?
Well, like Sarah said, the criminals know who the mayor is, and that makes them emboldened. And like the Commissioner Tisch said, there's got to be consequences for actions. We've been talking about this ad nauseum for years. If there's no consequences, then we're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
That's right.
And we're going to erode the fabric of the city. That's what's happening.
You ever go to a state park and you see a sign everywhere that says, "Do not feed the wildlife"? Well, why not? Because if you feed the wildlife, people, animals, everybody responds to incentives. Okay? It's a feedback loop. They say, "Oh, wow, humans keep showing up to my state park or national park, they keep giving me bread and peanuts. I'm going to keep coming back. I want more bread and peanuts and snacks, whatever. Well, same thing with criminals. If you turn a blind eye to crime, then they become increasingly belligerent and delinquent and aggressive. They say, man, I got away with robbing that woman's purse on the subway. I wonder if I could hold up a liquor store at gunpoint. Okay, well, I held up that liquor store at gunpoint. I wonder if I could get away with, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates. Similar, we've seen this time and time and time again in various places, not just all across the country, but all across the world. This is how it works.
But why do the voters keep putting in these people, Democrats? This guy's a socialist Muslim that is obviously cares zero about public safety, and yet the voters just keep putting them in there.
Until it happens to them, until it happens in their neighborhood, which you don't want to happen, but that's what it's going to take. You know, a lot of voters just don't know the issues. Okay, they vote ideologies and they vote for the free stuff, and here we are. So now we got 3.5 years of this to go, and this city's in a lot of trouble.
There might not be a city at the end of this. After 3 years of Mamdani's leadership, the city might be cooked. Now, luckily, ladies and gentlemen, I've got some good / semi-funny news to share with you. One of our favorite Republican representatives up on Capitol Hill in the House of Representatives, his name is Chip Roy, has recently introduced, it's called the Mamdani Act, to the House floor, in an attempt to deport and denaturalize foreign nationals who advocate for or have ties to Islamist, socialist, communist, or Chinese Communist Party ideologies. Now, we can only pray that this sort of bill ends up getting passed. I'm not going to hold my breath. We hope it does. I'll tell you what, this is the exact type of thing we need to see if we truly want to put America first. Ladies and gentlemen, there is our Mamdani Act. It seems like literally there is just a mass exodus taking place in the state and in the city, in the state and the city of New York. People are leaving. They're not going to tolerate it. In fact, I want to ask, before we move on to our next segment here, let me ask you folks a question. Give me a yes or no. Have any of you formerly lived in a blue state? You said, you know what, taxes are too high, crime is too high, my politicians are too insane. I'm leaving. I'm moving to a red state. How many people here live in a red state now? You used to live in a blue state. You got fed up with it. I'm packing my bags. I'm selling my house, whatever. I'm moving to a new place. A lot of people. It's happening big time. Happening big time. And like we noted here, people are moving to places like Texas, to Idaho, to Florida, to just getting out of blue states. Big time phenomenon. Can't blame anybody that's doing it. At a certain point, you get tired of living in a blue state where you have effectively no say in the way that your state operates. You're living under a sort of a radically progressive totalitarian regime. Really is what it is. That's how California has been. That's how Washington, that's how Oregon has been. A lot of states like this. A lot of examples. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about some good news here. Like we said, we had some massive legal battles that the Republicans have won, that the Democrats have lost. Today really is I haven't seen anybody talking about this. This is a massive day. Massive victories, very consequential for midterms. Do me a favor, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe. Helps a lot, means a lot. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today has already proven to be absolutely catastrophic for the Democrats. You see, today we just got not one, but actually 3 massive legal updates that, when combined, pretty much spell out complete and total doomsday for the progressive left. Let's go ahead and break it all down. Now, first off, I want you to take a look at this. Breaking news this morning, the U.S. Supreme Court has officially allowed Texas to use the state's brand new congressional map for the 2026 midterms. In a 6-3 decision released just this morning, the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed Texas to implement its new drawn district map for 2025, which is designed to favor Republicans and could potentially secure the Republicans up to 5 additional seats in the U.S. House of Representatives come 2026 midterms. Justin, the U.S. Supreme Court officially upholds the Texas 2026 congressional map. Republicans currently stand to gain 5 seats. Now, they passed this map down in Texas about a year ago now, must have been. And then guess what? You had a member of the radically progressive federal judiciary, some progressive judge said, you're not allowed to do that. Went to the Supreme Court. Actually, they are. Actually, we are. And this is what that map is going to look like. I'll explain to you why this was allowed, why this ended up getting passed and upheld by the Supreme Court. I want to say something real quick. Not all redistricting is the same. Not all gerrymandering is the same. It's case by case. It happens in different ways for different reasons. Not all redistricting is as bad or as good or otherwise as all other instances. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that in just a moment. But first, take a listen to this.
Sean, what a big day this is for the GOP. As you point out, the High Court clearing the way for Texas's new congressional map that really could help the Republicans with perhaps as many as 5 more seats in the House come the midterm elections in 2026. Now, the High Court's unsigned order actually follows Texas's emergency request for the justices to pause a 3-judge panel's ruling, which previously tried to block the state's recently redrawn map. Now, in its decision to side with Texas, the High Court said that that panel failed to honor the presumption of legislative good faith by construing ambiguous, direct, and circumstantial evidence against the legislature. The High Court also found that given the release of the panel's ruling right smack dab in the middle of Texas's candidate filing period, the lower court had improperly inserted itself into an active primary campaign, causing much confusion and upsetting the very delicate federal-state balance in elections. Bottom line, Sean, it's a win for the separation of powers. It's a win for the great state of Texas. And it ultimately could be a very, and I mean very big win for the GOP come the midterm elections in 2026.
Well, it most certainly is going to help a lot. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But folks, in summary, the Republicans now, as of this morning, have just concretely locked in an extra 5 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives going into midterms, and no one has even voted yet. Midterm season hasn't even really started soon. And just to be perfectly clear, we were able to accomplish this down in Texas by ripping apart all of the Democrats' beloved racially gerrymandered, unconstitutional voting districts. So when I said that not all redistricting is built the same, it's all different, what happened here in Texas, you had Democrats that had long established racially gerrymandered, unconstitutional voting districts. Texas said, you know what? We're going to rip these apart. This stuff is illegal. It's unconstitutional. We're going to bring balance and a degree of fairness back to our districts here. We're going to rip apart the unconstitutional Democrat districts. That's what happened. That's what just got held up. Absolutely massive. But like I said earlier, that is not all that has happened today. Because now I want to show you this. Just this morning, Florida State Governor Ron DeSantis has dropped officially a brand new redistricted congressional map for the great state of Florida. Republicans are set to pick up an additional 4 seats. This is hot off the press this morning. First on Fox, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has officially unveiled this morning a brand new congressional redistricting map proposal, which adds 4 GOP seats to the Sunshine State. A quote, Florida got shortchanged in the 2020 census, and we've been fighting for fair representation ever since, said DeSantis. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just like in Texas, the Democrats have tried to racially gerrymander the state of Florida. But now the great people down in Florida, Ron DeSantis included, are set to toss those unconstitutional, racially gerrymandered voting districts into the garbage can where they belong. And so just right there, between Texas and Florida, already us Republicans, we are set to lock in up to 9 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. And I'll tell you what, that is an absolutely massive deal because keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, right this very moment, the Republican-Democrat split in the House is only 6 seats. So yeah, Literally every single seat counts, and we have just locked in an extra 9. That seems to be the case. But now, ladies and gentlemen, now that we've gotten done talking about today's good news for the Republicans, what do you say we talk about today's bad news for the Democrats? Because boy, oh boy, boy howdy, did they just get some absolutely catastrophic doomsday news. Now, as all of you know, just the other day, the Democrats attempted to illegally redistrict the great state of Virginia. And because it was illegal, they literally violated their own Virginia state constitution in doing so. Well, guess what? The Virginia State Supreme Court decided to get directly involved. In fact, just this morning, they heard their first set of oral arguments pertaining to the legality of this new gerrymandered Democrat map in Virginia. And I'll tell you what, let's just say, as a little bit of a spoiler here, things this morning did not go well for the Democrats in front of the Virginia State Supreme Court. I've got something I want you to take a look at. Reported by Bloomberg this morning. The Virginia Supreme Court heard arguments Monday morning on the Republicans' effort to block a new congressional map that could boost the Democrats' House seats after midterms. Well, it would. If this map is locked in, it would boost the Democrats' seats in the House by potentially 4 or 5. It would be a big boost. Newsmax says Virginia Supreme Court judges sounded skeptical Monday morning of the state's new Democrat-drawn congressional map. Now, they talked about this morning, they talked about the merits of all of this redistricting in the state of Virginia. The Supreme Court in Virginia, they were not impressed. They were smacking down all of these claims made by the Democrat legal team here. I want to show you something. I'm not just talking out my behind here, okay? We always have this phrase, put your money where your mouth is. Well, people on this website, Polymarket, they have been betting whether or not the new Virginia congressional map will get passed and used in midterms. Well, ladies and gentlemen, April 21st, 6 days ago, the betting odds were 95% yes. People were betting, yes, there's a 95% chance that this new Democrat-favored congressional map in Virginia will get used. Folks, after today's Supreme Court oral argument session this morning, it has plummeted all the way down to 63%. They started the day at 80%. Following the Supreme Court oral arguments, plummeting down to 63. And minute by minute, it's still going lower. I've been tracking this all day. It is cratering. So we say, like I said, put your money where your mouth is. These people are, even the bettors, people that are putting their money where their mouth is. I don't know. People aren't so confident that this thing is going to get locked in. Good news for us, terrible news for the Democrats. We have just locked in +9 between Texas and Florida. That seems to be the case. The Democrats thought that they could lock in another +4 or 5 in Virginia. You broke the law. You violated your own Virginia state constitution. Probably not the case. And I'll tell you what, this is the stuff that we love to see if we actually want to put America first. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, today we have some absolutely massive, stupendous, really just great, phenomenal news. Legal news, Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, the Virginia State Supreme Court, redistricting in Virginia, in Texas, and in Florida. Really pretty good news here today, ladies and gentlemen. Things are looking up. Now, we have another massive story here today, folks, I'd love to go through. At this point, we're going to talk about some chaos that is going on over in Europe. This sort of pertains to Iran, pertains to China, pertains to the United States. Things are not looking good in Europe right now. Do me a favor, before we get to this, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. It really does help a lot. Means a lot to me, more than you could ever know. Thank you all very much for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this. Folks, there's really no other way to put this, but right this very moment, NATO is pretty much on the cusp of imploding. Seriously. Now, even the European NATO members are starting to turn on each other, blaming each other for their own problems. There's economic chaos unfolding all across Europe because of their refusal to work with the United States of America. President Trump has been, as you all know, incredibly critical of Europe's recent behavior, to say the least. And now, well, also, Europe is starting to get bullied and threatened by China. I kid you not. And they don't really have a response. They really can't do anything about it. Now, to kick off this segment here, I want to show you something. NATO, as of this morning, is now considering scrapping its yearly annual summits, in part to avoid potentially tense encounters with President Trump. You understand that? They don't want to have to deal with President Trump, whatever that means. So they're considering canceling their yearly summits, just saying, you know what, we're not going to do them anymore. We don't want to confront Trump anymore. We have this news also breaking, coming out this morning. The European Union has now spent an additional $32 billion on fossil fuel imports since the war with Iran began. The International Energy Agency, the IEA, is now calling the situation the biggest energy security threat in history, as far as the Europeans are concerned. Folks, this is what catastrophe looks like in Europe. This is what economic doomsday looks like in Europe. So right now, the Europeans, our NATO allies, they're literally running away from President Trump because they want to keep on living in their delusional fantasy land bubble instead. So they're canceling these annual NATO summits. Meanwhile, their entire economy is literally imploding. And now, really, they're actually just starting to lash out. They're getting desperate. They're getting enraged, some of them over in Europe. In fact, I want you to take a look at what German Chancellor, a guy named Merz, had to say just this morning. The Chancellor of Germany. He's actually this morning taking personal shots, figuratively, at President Trump. Take a look at this. First off, German Chancellor Merz says Iranians are obviously stronger than many thought. That's what he looks like right there. That's perhaps not that controversial. This is. He went on to say, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says he does not see what exit strategy the United States has in the Iran war. He warns an entire nation is being humiliated by the Iranian leadership, especially by these so-called Revolutionary Guards. And then he says that Iran is negotiating very skillfully and is stronger than anyone thought. Folks, he said an entire nation is being humiliated by the Iranian leadership, especially the IRGC. He's criticizing the United States of America. What he is saying is that the Iranians are negotiating skillfully, that they're far surpassing everyone's expectations, and that they have humiliated the United States of America. That is what he says this morning. Meanwhile, guess what? The German economy, really the entire European economy, is absolutely in tatters. We got this report this morning. Speaking of Germany, Germany's consumer confidence has hit the lowest it's been today in over 3 years. So this is what I'm talking about when I mention total European economic collapse, economic crisis, energy crisis. They're panicking, they're lashing out. And really, once again, this all goes back because they refused to support the United States in our endeavor to reopen the Hormuz and shut down the Iranian regime. All they had to do is say yes and oblige and be good allies, but they chose not to. And now they are getting desperate. They're getting angry. They're lashing out. They're saying things they probably should not be saying. But then, over in the United Kingdom, they, the Brits, are actually panicking in sort of the opposite direction. Take a look at this. Just this morning, breaking news. United Kingdom's Prime Minister Keir Starmer called President Trump this morning, telling him there's an urgent need. President Trump, there's an urgent need to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, you don't say. Because I remember about 5 weeks ago, President Trump, and he's been doing it pretty much every single day since, Trump has been saying, listen, you guys really should help us get the Iranian regime under control. You should help us, Europe, United Kingdom, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. You should, at a minimum, let us use your airspace during our endeavor to open these things, which predominantly benefit you guys. You guys are more dependent on the Hormuz than we are, by the way. And they all stuck up their nose and stuck out their tongue and said, no, it's not our problem. Not our problem, is what they said. Very defiantly, at least that's what they thought. Well, as it would turn out, it does seem to be their problem. Now, speaking of problems, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, he might have some problems domestically. In fact, this might explain why he's calling up Trump this morning, begging for help. Listen to this.
For Keir Starmer right now.
You think things are bad here in the United States? Why don't you just go across the pond over to the UK, because things are just downright atrocious over there for Keir Starmer. Just take a look here. Britain's satisfied with Keir Starmer. Overall, 18%.
Ooh.
You can't even drink or smoke anymore when you're 18%. You're below that line. That's not good. How about his own party, the voters who voted him in back in 2024? Less than 50% of Labour Party voters back in 2024 actually are satisfied with the job that Keir Starmer is doing. When less than 50% of your own party voters are satisfied with what is shaken, you know you're in bad shape.
Wildly unpopular right now. How does it compare to something in American history?
Okay, so you see this 18% right here, and I just went to myself, I'm not sure I've ever seen a U.S. leader so unpopular. So I went back through the record books and I said, okay, popularity ratings, and I was like, who was the worst ever, the lowest ever? And that was George W. Bush back in 2008. He came in one poll with a 20% approval rating. Well, I got news for you. 20%'s low, but it's higher than 18%. Keir Starmer is less popular right now than the least popular American president ever. He is somehow less popular. And Richard Nixon, of course, was coming in at about 24% just before he resigned office. So Keir Starmer is less popular than Richard Nixon was when he was forced out by Watergate. Keir Starmer, a very unpopular man. A lot of people want to put a lot of things in their tea when they look at Keir Starmer.
So Brits are unhappy with Keir Starmer, and now he might just be so desperate, he's calling up Trump saying, okay, what can we do? By the way, quick digression here. President Nixon, as many of you know, was actually perhaps one of the most popular presidents of all time. He might even have the biggest landslide victory in all of U.S. history. Deep state takedown conspired to shut him down. They didn't like him. Watergate, you want to talk about a deep state setup, a scandal? They've been doing it for a very long time. You got to go back to Nixon. You can go back even further. Anyway, I digress. That's unrelated. What do you say we talk about how China relates to all of this? Folks, I've got something that I want all of you to take a look at. We've seen the Europeans prove over the last 5, 6, 7 weeks to be very aggressive, verbally hostile to the United States. I mean, the Chancellor of Germany, Merz, he was doing it this very morning, saying that the Iranians have humiliated us. Well, let's just put this into perspective here. Coming out of Reuters this morning, they report this. Even as China has refrained from overt criticism of Donald Trump over the Iran war and signaled it wants a positive meeting between the United States, President Trump, and Chinese President Xi Jinping, Beijing has quickly moved to expand its toolkit of economic pressure mechanisms aimed at Washington. It's so funny because Reuters this morning is reporting that even China is at least verbally, rhetorically proving to be less hostile than our supposed European allies. While the Europeans are insulting us and criticizing us left and right every single day, they've been doing it for months, years, really. China is still, at face value, remaining respectful. Maybe it's a better path. We also have this report. I mentioned that China is now literally bullying Europe and threatening Europe. Well, let me show you what that looks like. Coming out of the press this morning, China has officially warned the European Union not to proceed with its new Made in Europe industrial plan, threatening countermeasures if it harms Chinese companies. The proposed Industrial Accelerator Act in Europe sets strict local content requirements, such as 70% European components for electrical vehicles and batteries, plus quotas for low-carbon steel and aluminum and public projects. The European Union wants to rebuild its manufacturing base and reduce reliance on Chinese supply chains. Beijing described these rules as protectionist and discriminatory. Folks, this is China, just to be very clear, saying, hey, Europe, European Union, don't you dare even attempt to become self-reliant and autarkic. Don't you dare try to stop purchasing fewer goods from us over in China. Don't you dare try to rekindle your own domestic European manufacturing sector. If you do, we will economically punish you. We will engage in predatory aggressive economic maneuvers against you. They've been doing that to the United States for years now. We all know that. That's why President Trump, thank God we've got a good president who realizes this insane economic predacious behavior from China. Trump is cutting them off step by step, day by day. And now China says, well, we can't afford to lose Europe. So, hey, Europe, we are now threatening you. Don't you dare try to become self-sufficient in the same way that the United States has. Folks, do you think China would ever say this to us? Do you think China, Xi Jinping, would ever say this to Trump? No, of course not, because they know the United States is powerful and that President Trump is not going to tolerate anti-American antics like this. So you can infer that if China, Xi Jinping, is saying this to Europe, what do you think the Chinese perception of Europe is? China views Europe as weak, defenseless. China believes that they can push Europe around. They can threaten them, economically extort them, whatever. Give them lopsided ultimatums because China believes that Europe won't do a damn thing about it. And you know what? Honestly, China is probably right. But now I've got something else I want you to take a look at here. As all of this is happening with China and Europe, these relationships, NATO might be imploding, the European economy is imploding. Take a look at this. The United States over in the Middle East and Iran have entered a no war, no peace standoff, with both sides betting that they can outlast each other. According to the New York Times, President Donald J. Trump has canceled envoys to travel for talks over to Pakistan, while Iran maintains it will not negotiate with the United States as long as the naval blockade remains intact. Iranian officials believe that they can endure the economic pressure, but analysts warn the prolonged stalemate could prove more dangerous than a short conflict. Meanwhile, Iran's economy, listen to this, Iran's economy is under strain, with forecasts suggesting inflation could reach 70% in a prolonged standoff with the United States and exceed 120% if fighting resumes. Ladies and gentlemen, you thought inflation under Joe Biden was bad. In 2023, it peaked at 9%. 9% inflation we had during the Biden era, during the auto pen era. We all saw, man, life became so unaffordable. 70%, 120% they are currently looking at in Iran as a consequence of President Trump's blockade. You thought 9% was bad. It was bad. Try 120. And this is all because of the leverage, the genius mastermind leverage that President Trump is building against the Iranian regime by nature of maintaining this blockade. Now, Iran, they want out. Take a listen to this, though.
What they mean by opening the straits is, yes, the straits are opened as long as you coordinate with Iran, get our permission, or we'll blow you up, and you pay us. That's not opening the straits. Those are international waterways. They cannot normalize, nor can we tolerate them trying to normalize a system in which the Iranians decide who gets to use an international waterway and how much you have to pay them to use it.
So this is now what the Iranians are bringing to the table. As of this morning, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the Iranians floated an offer. Hey, United States, you get rid of your blockade. We will open up the strait, and then the global economy can get back underway. That's Iran's counterproposal right now. Really, as he said, what they mean when they say we're going to open the strait is that they're going to allow ships through so long as these ships are effectively agreeing to the financial extortion of the IRGC. You want to navigate your vessel through the Hormuz, you've got to pay us $2 million in cryptocurrency. That's the type of stuff we're talking about. The United States is not going to tolerate that. We are not going to tolerate the IRGC, the psychotic jihadist Iranian regime, extorting money out of civilian vessels in international waters. And I'll tell you what, we absolutely should not tolerate that, because that would be America last. We are about America first. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to take a breath. This has been one hell of a show. Good Lord, I think we're 95 minutes into this thing. If I had to guess, this will probably end up being another 2-hour-long broadcast. Whew. Got to wipe the sweat off my brow. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I think we've covered all of our massive, big news stories today. What I would love to do is take a look at our Rumble rants and our Super Chats. I want to see what you folks have to say. Do you mind? Now, let me pull these up. Thank you all very much for being here today. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you all. Sincerely, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and pull these up. Ooh, goodness. Goodness gracious. Okay, where are the Super Chats at? I need to find these, and we've got Rumble rants as well. Good show. A lot of good news. Listen, folks, this redistricting news today, specifically out of all of it, big deal, big news. We are hitting the ground running going into midterms. We might already be up plus 9 seats, and midterm season hasn't even begun. Right now, it's not midterm season. It is redistricting season. Okay, there's a lot of Super Chats. We're going to be here for a while, folks. Everybody sit down, enjoy the show. And you know what we need to do is put on the hat. Thank you very much. Let's put it on. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, our very first Super Chat of the day. Well, I'm going to start with a Rumble rant. Our very first Rumble rant of the day is this. Jenna K99 says, Matt, my daughter turns 12 on Thursday while you are out of town. She loves the way you say button. Will you please wish Tori a happy birthday and say the magic word for her? Tori, this Thursday, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful birthday and button, 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 button. Personally, Tori, I don't think I say it strangely at all. I think everybody should say it the way I say it. I say I'm the only one that says it the right way, Tori, if it's, I can be honest with you here. But anyway, have a great birthday. Happy birthday. That's not going to say the exact, that's just about my daughter's birthday. She's turning 5. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Button. Unbelievable. I'm getting bullied. I'm getting harassed. Somebody help me. I'm getting harassed. Thank you very much. Debbie Batterman says this. I'm a 72-year-old grandma. I've been listening to you for a long time, and I've gotten all my friends to listen to you. You are awesome. Debbie. Mrs. Betterman, respectfully, Debbie, thank you very much. Listen, when you guys are doing the word of mouth thing, you're passing it on to your friends, your relatives, whatever, that's awesome. That really helps. That means a lot. The word of mouth, we're taking over. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that a lot. That's huge. That's awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for being a part of the community. That's big. Thank you. That's very kind. Squeaks 6723 says, politicians should not tell us if there is a fascist or whatever. It is up to us, the people. I think so. I agree. Thank you. Thank you. Ruby Hoove says, always enjoy your take on things, Matt. Keep up the fantastic work. Thank you, Ruby. As always, you're here every single day. Thank you very much. Renbro, another daily listener, he says, I may have the answer as to why people make fun of how you say the word button. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Are we gonna see this? Okay, yes or no? You guys are making me paranoid now. Do I really say it strangely? Button. I don't even know how you say it. To me, it's just so normal. I say it the right way. I don't even know how else to say it. Button. I don't know. You're making me paranoid. You know what? I'm never saying anything ever again. Okay, I changed my mind. I made it 4 seconds. You're lucky I changed my mind. Thank you very much. Okay, here we go. We have more super chats here. I changed my mind because we have super chats. This is from This is from Ruby again. Says, praying for all Americans, especially Trump. True. True. Likewise. Thank you, Ruby. Tracy Lynn says, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt Man and the Morse Force. We've got some big stuff in store for the Morse Force here in the next couple months. Okay, some of you might have an idea. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. Jomita Goodwin says, boycott Disney, boycott Jimmy Kimmel. I wonder, what do you think? Are they going to fire this guy? Are they going to cancel his TV show? Like within the next couple days? It takes some time to, do this if they're going to do it. Are we going to see him get canceled? Real quick, yes or no? Show of hands in the live audience here. Yes or no? You think they're going to kick this guy off the air? They might. I think they might have been looking for a reason, right? I think they were waiting for a moment like this. I think they might seize it. We'll see. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sheeran, thank you again. Welcome back. Says President Trump is the winner. Thank you, Sheeran. Welcome back to the show again every day, 7 days a week. Thank you, ma'am. Super Ranger 95, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Everyone in the live audience is saying, it might be 50-50. Thank you very much. Thank you. Kuda Donovan says, Democrats want pain for the American people. Then all of us, I'm not sure. I think so. And they most certainly want to replace us. Very true. Thank you very much, Kuda, Mr. Donovan. I appreciate that. Tracy Lynn says, Matt Mann and the Morse Force must boycott Congress. Wahahahahaha. Help fight their insanity and fraudulent king's rule. Here's what I want to do. I want to prevent the Democrats from getting control of the House, the Senate, really anything, in my opinion. Beyond keeping the Democrats out, I also, at the same time, during the Republican primary process, want to replace the bad, awful America Last Republicans, rhinos. I want to replace them with good America First Republicans. So keep the Democrats out of power, replace the bad Republicans with good Republicans. I think we can do both things. We have been doing both things. We're not 100% of the way there, but we're making good progress insofar as that goes. Thank you very much. We have a super chat here from Ruby Hoof. Says, ICE is needed and very appreciated. Very true. Super Ranger says, keep up the great work, Matt. America first. What's that? America first. Really, what does that mean? Americans first is what that means. It means the American people need to be put first. Thank you. Kuda says, let's go, Janine Pirro. That's right. She's doing a good job. She's a good U.S. attorney. Thank you very much. Angela says, how did he know that our president was going to be at that event? Well, President Trump, I believe he announced that early. In fact, I believe that Acting Attorney General Blanche actually acknowledged that. He said that Trump agreed to attend this event at the Hilton in like early March, I think. So everybody knew Trump was going to be there. Everybody knew. Thank you very much, Angela. I think Blanche said that. Right on Cue says, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Right on Cue. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. That's a big one, too. $25 super chat. Barry, he says, hi, Matt. Love your broadcast. Correct me if I'm wrong, but all the cabinet members there are white. Kash Patel is not. I know. That's something we talked about yesterday. If I can give you my honest speculation here, I think that this would-be assassin, Cole Allen is his name, I think he wanted to spare Kash Patel because Kash Patel is not white. That seems to be the case. I don't know. Let me know. That's just my speculation. That's my guess. Because in the manifesto, we read it yesterday, he said, I'm not looking to kill Kash Patel. He said, I'm looking to kill everybody other than Kash Patel. He didn't explain why. I would guess that was determined amongst racial lines. That would be my guess. It was racially motivated. I suppose we'll find out. They have the guy alive, so I'm sure they'll ask him. Maybe we'll find out. Thank you very much. This is Joy Caballero. Thank you very much. She says, no one is asking why this venue was approved for this event, given the terrible security cameras they had. Why did they not make it a condition of agreement to upgrade them, given a real threat? Lot of oversights that were made here. Yeah, we've talked about a lot of those. Yeah, you're right. Yes, you are right. Yes, you are right. Thank you, Joy. Thank you very much. A lot of oversights. Thank you very much. D Royal Custom Food Trucks. Thank you for that super chat. Thank you very much. Listen, hey, it is almost 2 p.m. I have had no food today. I'm about to get hangry. I'm on the cusp of getting hangry. Everybody watch out. Thank you very much. Renbro says, media woke up on the stupid side of bed today. I think they do that every day. Thank you, Renbro. Gold Star Mom, SD Gold Star Mom, thank you. Thank you very much. She says, I watch your show with a group of people every day. We all enjoy your work. Keep up the good work. Blessings to you and your family. You know what? That's so nice. Thank you very much. It's so funny because when I'm doing my show, I'm sitting in my own little office. I'm by myself, my family. I'm in my house in the middle of nowhere, in the forest in Idaho. And I never even really think about like how you guys are watching the show. You're on a phone, you're on the computer, you're on the TV, whatever. There's 10 of you in one room. It is, everybody watches in different ways. I never really think about that, but that's very cool. She says, a whole group of people. That's cool. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hey, shout out all of you. Thank all of you then. Thank you very much. We have another one here from Doc Wright. He says, thank you for your excellent podcasts. Godspeed, Patriots. He says, where we go one, we go all. I think so. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doc Wright. Nice horse. Is that a horse? I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you very much. Your profile picture's like that big on my screen. I can barely see it. Thank you. Ruby Hoob again says, New York ain't what it used to be. I hope it recovers. Just sad. New York, like, really should be the nicest, cleanest, best city in the entire. If we were like a serious country, if we had had serious leadership for the last 40 or 50 years, New York would be the shining utopia. It'd be the beacon, the best city anywhere in the world. But it's like not. Honestly, I've never been there. As an American, I don't even have an interest. I don't even want to go to New York. Is that bad to say? I could die. I could live another 60 years and pass away without ever having been to New York, and I wouldn't even really be mad about it. It just seems dirty and loud and annoying and violent and chaotic and loud and dirty. I don't really need to go to New York. I don't know. Maybe they clean it up someday. I don't know. Maybe they fix it up someday. I'll say, okay, we're going to go. But for now, I don't know. I don't think I need to go on a vacation in New York. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Thank you very much. Sheeran, another one says, when you are genuine, when you are real in a world where not everyone wants it, so these nasty things happen, no one can stop him. He has a huge universal army with him. Thank you, Sharon. I think you're talking about Trump. I think so. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sharon. Again, thank you. All the way from the UK. Kuda Donovan here says, Ken Griffith should tell the PPL of New York City, the people of New York City, either kick him out of office or I'll even take my jobs and tax that I already pay. It seems like he's on the cusp of moving down to Miami. Have you guys heard this? That now Miami is kind of slowly becoming the new financial capital of America, of the world, perhaps even. You're having all these banksters, big money holders, financiers, whatever, hedge funds. They don't want to be in New York anymore for very obvious reasons. Seems like they're all making the migration down to Florida, down to Miami specifically. It's slowly happening. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can't blame them. Can't blame them at all. Thank you very much. Zion War says, hey, Matt, did you see that Starbucks is moving its headquarters out of Seattle? Why? I saw that. I saw that Dutch Bros has left. I saw that In-N-Out Burger, like the headquarters of In-N-Out, is also leaving. Exodus, man. People are getting out. Nobody wants to be in these states anymore. It's bad. It's really bad. Take it from me. Take it from me. It's bad. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jared Lang, thank you very much. He says, King Donald. Ruby Hoove again, thank you very much. Rise of Middle America says, I mentioned on my show Friday that Texas has gained 2.1 million constituents since 2020. Virginia, however, has only gained 249,000. That's not even enough to gain a seat in the House. Yeah. I'll tell you, whenever we do another national census here, things are going to change a lot. And it's not just when we conduct these national censuses, whatever the plural for that word is. It's not just seats in the House, as you know, it's also votes in the Electoral College, which has a big impact. I mean, that is the impact on a presidential election. Things are going to change. Things are looking very bad for the Democrats over a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year timeline, things are looking very bad for the Democrats. If we can just like stay on track here and not go off the rails, we might be witnessing the slow, brutal death of the entire progressive movement in this country. They're on the cusp of losing everything over the next 10 years. As long as we don't go off the rails here, we just gotta stay on track here. Thank you very much. Ruby Hoove, she says, remember to vote in midterms. Very true. Renbro says, you say button like someone from Louisiana says batten. You have a pause between your butt and the ton. Hey, what do you mean by that? I've got a pause between my ton of butt? Huh? He says, drop one T in button. Love your brother. You know what? Maybe it's part of the charm. Hey, all I can do is be me. All I can do is be me. Live, laugh, love, button. All I can do is be me. Maybe that's what part of makes me. Maybe that's what makes me unique. I don't know what to tell you. But I'm not changing for nobody. I'm never changing for nobody. Thank you very much. That's just how it is. Thank you. Now, I think I need to reload here. I think we have some more super chats. These days, super chats are like half of the show. We do. This is from Lou Rubink. Says this. Have you heard what the so-called mentalist was saying and what was presented on the card that he gave to President Trump? I don't know anything about it. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'll look into it, though, but I have zero clue. I'll look into that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I'm trying to think. Like moments before that shooting broke out in the hotel, there was a guy presenting Trump with a card. It looked like it said Vivian. Is that what you're talking about? We were actually talking about that on my live show. We were saying, what the hell does it say on that thing? I think it said Vivian. But no, I haven't even thought about that. I don't know what that means. I haven't even thought about it. I'll look into it, though. Thank you. Chrissy says this. Chrissy, well, look who came back. Chrissy says, well. Looks like the lunatics are running the asylum while we're over here focusing on America first and winning. Imagine being satisfied with Kimmel on your side. Thank you, Matt. The best one-man show. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming back to the show. Every day we're seeing, Chris, we're seeing a lot of you. We've got a lot of regulars here. Thank you very much. Yeah, if they were smart on the left, they would excommunicate Kimmel, say, listen, you're bad optics. We don't want you on our side anymore. Thank you very much. Ruby says this, kudos to the First Lady. She's a class act, no doubt. Alafi says this, video games bad, very bad. Is that what motivated Cole to go after Trump? An actual reporter effectively asked that. Yeah, he did ask about the first person video game thing. Hate to break it to him. I think a lot of people are playing video games these days. Old, young, kids, elderly, whatever. Everybody's playing video games these days. I don't know. I don't really think there's a link. I've played a lot of World of Warcraft in my day. Listen, hey, if video games had some sort of like violent impact on me, then I would be I don't know, summoning demons and casting Shadow Bolt and raiding dungeons and killing dragons, because that's what I did in World of Warcraft back in the day. But I'm not. Hey, I wish I was. I wish I could. That sounds kind of cool, but I'm not. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think after a very action-packed 2-hour-long broadcast, we have gotten through all of the super chats, which means now it is time for me to get lunch. Folks, I'm going to have 3, maybe 4 videos on YouTube and Rumble for you guys today. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button also. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it, folks. Great show. A lot of good news. Action-packed day. I will see you folks tomorrow for another show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Western. Until then, God bless. Stay safe and watch out for those videos. They'll be up here in the next couple hours. Take care, everyone. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you folks tomorrow. Thank you very much.